Welcome into the Poetry Tavern, a place to discuss both reading and writing poetry, spotlighting new poems and ideas every week. Hello all, and welcome to another episode of the Poetry Tavern. I'm your host, as always, Charlotte, and this week we're talking about phones. I mentioned last week wanting to do this episode, and I found some poems for it, so this is going to be good, juicy, and I remembered some poems for it as well from stuff I'd read before, so let's get into it before I waffle on too much and dive into our first poem. The first poem we're going to talk about today is Please Hold by Kieran O'Driscoll. I studied this one at some point, and I just held on to it in my brain forever, so let's see how it goes. This is the future, my wife says. We are already there, and it's the same as the present. Your future here, she says. And I'm talking to a robot on the phone. The robot is giving me countless options, none of which answer to my needs. Wonderful, says the robot, when I give him my telephone number. And great, says the robot, when I give him my account number. I have a wonderful telephone number and a great account number, but I can find nothing to meet my needs on the telephone, and into my account, which is really the robot's account, goes money, my money, to pay for nothing. I'm paying a robot for doing nothing. This call is free of charge, says the mind-reading robot. Yes, but I'm paying for it, I shout, on my wonderful account into my great telephone bill. Wonderful, says the robot. And my wife says this is the future. I'm sorry, I don't understand, says the robot. Please say yes or no. Or you can say repeat or menu. You can say yes, no, repeat, or menu. Or you can say agent if you'd like to talk to someone real who is just as robotic. I scream agent, and I'm cut off. My wife says this is the future. We are already there, and it's the same as the present. Your future here, she says. I'm talking to a robot on the phone, and he is giving me no options in the guise of countless alternatives. We appreciate your patience. Please hold. Ein klein Natch music. Please hold. Ein klein Natch music. Please hold. Ein fucking klein Natch music. And the robot transfers me to himself. Your call is important to us, he says. And my translator says this means your call is not important to them. And my wife says this is the future. And my translator says please hold means that for all your accomplishments, the only way you can now meet your needs is by looting. Wonderful, says the robot. Please hold. Please grow old. Please grow cold. Please do what you're told. Grow old. Grow cold. This is the future. Please hold. I've probably talked about this before, but a thing I love in poetry is repetition. I think I love writ large is repetition, like the repetition of musical motifs, the thing of a sentence keep coming back up, and like a repetition as reinforcement. I just love the way this poem ends because it takes that thing from what's been going on all the way through. Please hold, and twisting it ever so slightly. And even though the please should make it polite, it just makes it feel like a force. Because, literally, as the poem is talking about, he has no other choice but to do this, to get what he wants. So, when it's please grow cold, and it's that's hitting me deep in the chest, because it's we want to store you out until you die. And, their frustration builds and builds. And he is being repeatedly told, this is the future, this is the way it is. They are going to keep you on this phone call until it meets their needs to serve you. And the bit where it's talking about the human who's just as robotic and the robot transferring to himself, and it's just a loop that he gets caught in of please hold, please hold, please hold. Yeah, and just the thing of this is the future. I think the thing is, this is sort of a perspective that you see a lot, weirdly, in, younger people now, of, we don't want everything automated, please don't make everything automated, and I'm there, I don't want everything automated, please let me talk to a person. But it used to be an idea that was held more by older people, so it's really interesting how that's sort of come full circle, and I'm perfectly understanding of, there's a certain level of convenience that comes with automated systems, but if that automated system is putting us in loops and cycles where we are not being able to actively communicate or effectively communicate, then it's really interesting to sort of think about what is the limitation of that automation. Anyway, I won't ramble on anymore. Alright, So the next poem is Social Media Princess by Thomas Wells. We first met coasting the blurred lines of the information superhighway. We exchanged polite words and respectful kindness, though we seldom saw or heard each other. I am the old man of touch and eye contact. You are the princess of text and illusions. I adapt to your hot realms, to your affinity for glittering screens, because past and future, old and young, are but shadows cast over the now. Once I learned the rules, I believed in you. You are alive and fragrant within the text you deliver each moment of each day. In the photos you send, in the stories you share, you thrive and brighten my journey. Social media princess, my apps erect you through your words, like the heroine I love in my favourite novel, the perfect eidolon in my dreams. You return, making your offerings again and again. I somehow hear your whispering words, soothing my solitary, hungry heart. I somehow awaken to your textual passion and kindness, to my love and longing for you. So this one is weird. I was looking for, my first poem was all about phone calls, like actual phone calls, which isn't necessarily to do with what our modern concept of like a phone is, being smartphones. I mean, I know that there's sort of like other people who don't use smartphones, and people who still have landlines, even though I haven't had a landline in my life since I was like 5 years old. But I wanted one that was sort of more skewed towards the digital and the idea of like a smartphone. And when I found a poem called Social Media Princess, I was like, ooh, let's have a look-see at what this is. And it's sort of like very clearly about this relationship between two people who have sort of an age gap in some way, where one is more, I mean, it might not necessarily be a specific like age gap, but people who experience things in like this different generational capacity, because the speaker is like, this person of touch and eye contact, which are very physical, like in-person things. And he describes her as the princess of texts and illusions, which I think is so interesting as he slowly like talks about his developing feelings for her, and like all of it is through things she actively like shares publicly. And it's this really interesting thing of like, I mean, maybe this wasn't any intention, but I was reading it through and I was going, there is a horror in the fact that the things that he is accustomed to, he is now falling for potentially a trap. Like, he calls her a princess, he calls her a heroine, he calls her an eidolon. He is elevating her to a status beyond him. In a really interesting way, like, because the parts of herself he is allowed to see are these perfect ones that she allows herself to share. And it's sort of like this fallacy of him coming into it being like, this is who she is. This is like the perfect person she is. And her cherry picking. And not to be like, people don't cherry pick when they present themselves to people, because they absolutely do. Like, first impressions are a thing you're taught very young, to be like, you've got to make a good first impression on people. But also, I think there is a difference between being physically in person and presenting a front, and only allowing yourself to present the perfect, especially on social media where things can be edited. It's an interesting one that I thought, like, oh, it's just a little bit, there's something sinister from both sides, perhaps. I don't know if sinister, but there's something just off. And I really loved it for that. I don't know if that was the intention, it might be really sincere, and I'm reading too far into it, but yeah. That brings us to the end of our episode. Thank you all for coming in. I appreciate your visit to my lovely tavern. I don't know why I'm being weird about this, but anyway, thanks for coming and listening to me yap about phones, because this has been a bit more of a yappy one on my part, and also Please Hold was a longer poem than I usually do, but genuinely I love it so much that I just had to share it, and it's just like, it's a poem that I think is modern enough that it doesn't fall into like classic, but it's old enough where it's sort of like, if people don't bring attention to it, it will fall out the public eye, and I don't want it to do that because I think it's really good. But I think there's a lot of poems from the last 10 years or so. Anyway, next week's poems are going to be about solitude, mostly because of Please Hold, and I was thinking about, like, are there other poems that talk about this sort of solitude, but maybe in a more positive way, and I've sort of planned around that. So we'll see you next week when you come in to hear me yap about solitude. Thanks, bye.